and this is Answer the Call podcast. Before I get started, just a quick reminder if you're enjoying the podcast, and follow the channel so you never miss any news or episodes. You can also follow on Facebook and YouTube, Answer the Call COLL. That is Answer the Call COLL. Watch it live on Instagram, answer underscore the underscore call COLL. Leaving comments, likes, and reviews are all simple and free ways to help the channel grow. With that, let's get started. Time for the first call, guys. First call. Some headlines around the news, around the league and the NFL as we're approaching this NFL draft. We're just still a couple of weeks away, a few weeks. And I told myself I wasn't going to do this, guys. I told myself I wasn't going to talk about Jerry Jones. I told myself I wasn't going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys on this segment. But here we go. Jerry Jones doing what Jerry does best. I don't disagree with this trade completely, but I mean, it is kind of similar to what he did last year. Last year he sent a fourth round pick to, to get Trey Lance, fifth round pick to get Trey Lance. And now Trey Lance, left in free agency, hasn't re-signed with the team, might be joining the CFL. But now all of a sudden, here we go again. Jerry Jones trading a fifth round pick to the New England Patriots for quarterback Joe Milton, who we've barely seen any tape on. Now, his college tape, I mean, he was really good at Tennessee, but, he didn't really get a lot of action last season. And what's the difference? I mean, in Jerry's eyes, he says, hey, we basically are drafting a quarterback, trading away that pick. They did get, I think, a seventh round pick in return. They got a seventh round pick in return, but now 2 years in a row, you've given up a draft pick to trade for a quarterback versus then drafting one in the draft. And, Joe Milton, I'm not totally against what Joe Milton, like them trading for Joe Milton. I think Joe Milton probably can do a lot better. And now what that'll do is open up, a second, third, fourth round pick to not draft a quarterback. Many thought Dylan Gabriel was going to be an option for the Cowboys maybe in like round 4 or 5. But now with them trading for Joe Milton, I don't think that they'll draft one between rounds 2, 3, 4. So maybe what that does is allow them to go get something of really big need, maybe a running back, maybe another tight end, maybe another wide receiver, in rounds 2 or 3, and then maybe another edge or linebacker wherever they need the help in those middle rounds. So I'm not all against it, but man, Jerry, have you not learned, my guy? I mean, come on now. 2 years in a row, you're going to give up a draft pick for a quarterback, but hey, you never know. Maybe this will pan out for him. Maybe it'll pan out for him, and this will be exactly what the Cowboys need. And, maybe he'll be the successor to Dak Prescott. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen, but that is what happened. They did trade, and, we'll just have to see. So Geno Smith is signed a 2-year extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a 2-year, $85.5 million extension that includes $66.5 million in guaranteed money. So what that tells me is the Raiders are probably going to go wide receiver, running back in the first round, and if Genty's on the board, Genty's probably going to be going to the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's a real tragedy, because Ashton Genty was one of my favorite players in college, especially this past season. He was a lot of fun to watch, and I got to tell you, him going to the Las Vegas Raiders, it pains me, and it's going to be real, real hard for me to have to root for him, and especially like if I get him in fantasy leagues and stuff like that. But hey, we don't know. Maybe the Raiders want to go a different route, but the Most popular pick would be Ashton Genty at number 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Cardinals, while we're talking contract extensions, the Arizona Cardinals made Pro Bowl tight end Trey McBride the highest paid tight end in NFL history with a 4-year, $76 million extension. So he's the highest paid tight end in history. That is crazy. He is a great tight end and a real big playmaker for that offense. But man, to make him the highest paid in NFL history, that's a bit of a stretch. We'll have to see how that plays out. And we got the Giants and Browns are leaning towards not taking a quarterback at number 2 or 3. Honestly, I know this won't be a popular opinion, but I feel that would be the smart thing to do. To be honest, there's no QB worthy of being picked in the top 3. Now, Cam Ward will most likely go number 1 overall, and I can understand that. I don't think Shadur or any of the other QB prospects should even be considered in the top 3. If I was the Browns and Giants, I would take, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter and then draft a quarterback in the second round. So if the Browns take Carter, then the Giants should be taking Travis Hunter and targeting a quarterback maybe in round 2. Now the Browns could use some of their extra picks and trade back into the first round if they wanted to go that route, and I'd be okay with that. They have a real high pick, in rounds 2, 3, and 4, so they could stack up a couple of picks and trade back into the middle to late first round and go get Shadur Sanders if that is the route that they wanted. Because if Shadur Sanders makes it past 9, the slide, is crazy. He could go anywhere from 18 to, 32. So they could, decide, hey, we got Abdul Carter. Now we're going to trade back into the first round, go get Shadur, get our quarterback of the future. And, I feel bad for any quarterback that goes to Cleveland because Cleveland is like the destination where your career just seems to die. They don't know how to handle their players. And, look at Myles Garrett. Phenomenal player. Has spent his whole time in Cleveland. And what does he have to show for besides all his, individual accolades? So I don't know, guys. I don't want to see any quarterback go to Cleveland, honestly. Kenny Pickett got traded. I'm not a big Kenny Pickett fan, so hey, Kenny Pickett can be their quarterback for another season. Sacramento State plans to file an application with the NCAA this week to transition from FCS to FBS. That'll be really interesting. Their plans are to be an independent. The school has already filed a waiver to transition as an independent school in football, which requires NCAA approval. Sacramento State will play in the Big Sky in 2025, which is expected to be the last season there. If everything gets approved, Sacramento State would be ineligible for football postseason in 2025 and 2026, but would become eligible again in 2027. Now, I personally would like to see them join the Pac-12. Call me, I just that nostalgia, the Pac-12, the Pac-12 was always one of my favorite conferences, especially the late games. You never knew what was going to happen. I would like to see them join the Pac-12. That would be a good fit. And despite being a FCS school currently, once they became FBS school, they would generate plenty of revenue and the market would be there. Also, it would help rebuild that Pac-12. And you guys, like I said, I'm a big fan of, the Pac-12. You remember all those Pac-12 after dark games, and I'm just a real big fan of the Pac-12. So I would like to see some of these teams come in and kind of help rebuild the Pac-12. And that is all I have for the first call of the day. The first call. Now we're going to get into the real talk, all right? Some of the real talk here. And that's the rule changes. The rule changes going on in the NFL. The owners met this past week, earlier this week, and they decided to vote on some things. And who knows? We've seen rules change in the past. Some are good, some are bad, but for the most part, I do kind of agree with most of them. But hey, there's a few that just whatever. All right, so the first one, both teams will possess the ball in overtime during the regular season. I'm happy for this one. I am happy about the owners voting for this. I think too many games in the regular season were decided because both teams didn't get a chance to possess the ball. Now we get every overtime being the same. Now we get every overtime game being the same, guys. It will be a 10-minute overtime quarter. The only thing I would change is having it be like they do it in college. Spot the ball on a certain yard line and let them try to score a TD. This is still a great change, but I would like to see them go that route. Eventually, I hope there's no ties in football. And I don't know, maybe making it where after after the first touchdown, it's a 2 point conversion play or something. I don't know, just something to where we maybe don't have the 8 overtimes or the 7 overtimes. I like the 7, 8 overtimes in college. It's a lot of fun. It's exciting to watch. But in the NFL, that could get a bit crazy. So I still like it. I still think that they're making the right move here. Regular season, both teams will get a chance to possess the ball. So, owners approved proposals to expand the league's replay assist system. This will help more plays get reviewed. We all know that often in the game, refs miss calls. Expanding the replay assist system will help with more calls, and hopefully, this improves the games. As we all know, too many times a game is decided by a missed call. Now, more situations in the game will be able to be assisted by replay assist. Now, I do want to point out that there is a negative to this, obviously. With the replay assist, that means there's going to be more opportunity for them to look at plays and kind of take away from us watching the game. But overall, I think this could help. And speaking of helping, the NFL is implementing Hawkeye system. Okay. They're implementing Hawkeye system. This is a system that will measure first downs. The chain gang will serve as a secondary measure. So, goodbye, chain gang. I mean, we'll still see them in some capacity. But the Hawkeye system is going to be, measuring first downs. I must say, I like this move. As we all know, the refs have missed first downs in the past. The most recent was in the playoffs the playoffs this past season when Josh Allen was ruled short of a first down that looked like the ball crossed the line to gain. Having Sony's Hawkeye system will judge the line to gain, taking some of the pressure and responsibilities off these refs. And like I said, too many times has it been like, oh, is that a first down? Is it not? And as we're watching it, it's like, hey, that's a first down. And then they're like, no, no, no. So I'm all for it, and eventually I think what's going to happen is it's going to be more, of these systems determining, hey, was that pass interference? Was that, not pass interference, stuff like that. So this is the beginning. Measuring first downs is a great first step. And, let's take the game out of the ref's hands and let's put it back into the player's hands. And this is a great first way of doing so. Now, some people may not agree, and that's fine. I am always open to comments. I'm always open to everyone's opinion. You can reach out on the socials. You can comment on the episode. Let me know your thoughts on some of this, guys. We have some more, though. We still have more rules, and I've got a 7-round mock draft for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think people be like, what are you doing over here, bud? What do you think you doing? Because this is crazy. This is crazy talk. But I got to tell you, it's an interesting one for sure, and one that I'm excited about. So I can't wait to see all this and see what you guys think. But before we get there, we still have more rule changes. More rule changes. All right, the owners tabled. Tabled means couldn't come to an agreement. So the owners tabled and pushed back meetings for the tush push. So they tabled the tush push, couldn't come to an agreement, and pushed it back to the May meeting. So for right now, guys, we still have the tush push. We still have the tush push as of this episode, April 4th, 2025. Now, they will resume the meetings in May, and that could change. For one, I hope they don't pass the ban of the tush push. Just because a team can't, just because one team can run it better than the rest of the league doesn't mean it should be banned. Like I said on the last episode, maybe teams should just get better. How about that? How about the teams just get better? Because too many times we see all this and it's like, oh man, I can't stop this play. Well, tough, because it shouldn't be banned just because the rest of the league can't figure it out. I mean, it's not that hard. Everybody in the world knows when the tush push is coming, all right? The tush push, we know when it's coming. So I for one am just, you know, I want to see it stay. Now, like I like I said on the last episode, maybe the team should get better. The argument of player safety is also out. For one, no one has gotten hurt from the tush push, all right? No one, there's not been an injury. It's essentially a QB draw, and it would be no different than a running back taking it and the O line pushing the pile, like somebody coming in and pushing the pile if the running back had it. But because it's a quarterback, everybody wants to, oh, we can't stop that play. We can't stop it. Well, I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what to tell you. And personally, I think you should just get better, like I said. Also, the second reason, how can you preach about player safety when you're advocating for a 18-game season, 18-game regular season? Now, how can you advocate, how can you sit there and preach when you're advocating, you're the advocate of this 18-game season? You can't, because it's like contradicting yourself. You're like, oh, player safety. But now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to add one more game of meaning, and you're taking away the preseason. And I get it. The preseason kind of is boring, but it also allows these players and these teams to get familiar with each other, after the whole off season of not really being together, allows them, and it allows, coaches to find out who's going to make the team and who isn't. So now teams are going to be, 2-game preseason to determine who makes your 53-man roster from, I think, like 90 players or something, 70 players. It's just crazy that you're going to sit here and talk about player safety and wanting to ban the tush push and going for an 18-game season. Also, in my opinion, the tush push is no different than a trick play, okay? But it is a simple, basically QB draw with somebody pushing him from the behind. And, I mean, that's no different than, a running back hitting the hole and getting to the line of scrimmage and almost getting stopped and somebody coming in and pushing the pile. I mean, it's the same thing, essentially. So I don't think it's any different than a trick play, guys. The flea flicker or a reverse is a play that not many teams can run effectively, but yet they aren't banned. Let the tush push stay. # let the tush push stay. So Let me know what you think about the tush push. Should it go? Should it not go? But I for one, I want to see it stay. Just because teams can't stop it doesn't mean it should be banned. All right, another rule change. The NFL kickoff proposal was broken down into two parts. First, the touchbacks on kickoffs will be moved to the 35 instead of the 30, like it was last year. I don't like this move. Teams are getting the ball shorter and shorter fields. I was okay with the ball on the 30, but the 35, that's a bit much. I understand it. It is acting as motivation to not kick the ball to the back of the end zone, but dang, moving it to the 35, what's next? Ball will be on the 50. And I'm just not a big fan of it. It's not. I'm not a big fan, and the 30 I could see. Now the 35, the only thing I can think of is, like I said, it is going to act as a motivation to not kick the ball to the end zone for a touchback. We have that goal line to the 20-yard line that the ball has to make it into. It has to make it past that 20. So they're going to try to keep it in that return range to where they actually have to return the ball. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it being spotted on the 35. Let me know, guys, because like I said, it's just not for me. Not for me at all. Now, um, now the second part. No vote at this time on the onside kick modification. It will pick back up in the May meeting. I don't like the onside kick rules and wish they never changed them. I don't think you should have to announce that you are attempting an onside kick. Also, I don't think that teams should only get to try onside kicks in the fourth quarter while trailing. It kind of goes back to the tush push. Like, don't ban something just because a team can do it. And this right here, the whole onside kick thing and tush push kind of reminds me of the Patriots when Bill Belichick those last couple of seasons right before he was no longer with the team. It reminded me of like where he would send the guy in motion and like he would almost block the punt almost every time because the guy would just come in motion, and he had it down to a science of how it worked. Belichick figured it. He found a way, a loophole in the system. He exploited it, and then they're like, "Oh, hold on. If you're coming in motion, you have to be set, or whatever." So this is kind of the same thing. They changed the onside kick. They're wanting to ban the tush push. Come on, guys, quit changing stuff just because all the league can't figure it out. That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it exciting. Now, going back to the onside kicks, if y'all remember the Super Bowl where Sean Payton kicked an onside kick to start the second half, recovering it, and that's what really kind of helped the Saints win that game, win that Super Bowl. Sean Payton just right out of the half, boom, onside kick, and they recovered it. And look, I mean, it led them to a Super Bowl, and now that has been taken away. I think we should just kind of revert, be like, maybe not. Definitely don't announce it because you want that element of surprise. I mean, it kind of ties into like the trick plays. Should teams should teams have to announce, hey, I'm running a trick play. I'm running a trick play. No, they shouldn't. All right. So just stop changing all the rules because the league is becoming a league of crybabies. Win football games, figure it out, study the film, do whatever you have to do, but don't take stuff away. Don't take exciting plays away from us. And I, for one, I'm a fan of the tush push. I was a fan of the onside kicks because you never know. Get a crazy bounce. I'm a big fan of trick plays. So let me know, guys, what you think of the rule changes, where maybe the call was good or the call was bad in that regards. But right now, it is time for the last call, guys. This is going to be kind of a shorter episode. I just wanted to get a quick one in about the rule changes, and then last night I did a 7-round mock draft for the Los Angeles Chargers. So time for the last call. 7 round mock draft for the Chargers. All right, here we go. In round number 1 at pick number 22, the 22nd overall pick, the Los Angeles Chargers take edge rusher Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Now, some people may say, why an edge rusher here? You know, Khalil Mack's back. There's definitely, you know, a couple of pieces there on the at the edge, you know. Shamar Stewart, I like this pick. You know, Khalil Mack is getting to the end of his career, and Joey Bosa left in free agency, so there's still a glaring hole. You know, and Harbaugh really likes having that rotation of edge rushers, you know, keep them fresh. And this is what it does. That kind of fills that hole to where, you know, Shamar Stewart can come in and learn behind Khalil Mack, one of the greatest edge rushers ever. You know, such a dominant force, and I think Khalil Mack would mentor Shamar Stewart, teach him a few things, and then next season you have 2 young edge rushers for the Chargers, and you know, what better way to get the replacement than in the draft? They're young, and you wouldn't have to worry about paying edge rushers for a few seasons. So I don't know, guys. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to go wide receiver, tight end. In this particular mock draft, I don't think Colston Loveland was there at 22. So I was like, okay, no tight end that I like. I don't think Amarian Hampton was there. So I was like, okay, what better way than to go get an edge rusher? Because that's kind of where I'm at with this. And this is the move I hope the Chargers make. If they can't go get, Amarian Hampton or Colston Loveland, I say just go and draft an edge and let him learn behind Khalil Mack. So, all right, now in the second round, I actually made a trade here. I don't usually do the trades when I'm doing the full first round mock because it's way too unpredictable. But in this one, only one team I had to really focus on. The Chargers' original pick was number 55, traded back 2 spots, got an extra 4th rounder. And the pick is at number 57, Trayvon Henderson, running back from Ohio State. Chargers was able to land Najee Harris in free agency, but needs some running back. Needs another running back to kind of really help take off some of those carries for him. Najee Harris has had a lot of carries over the last few seasons. Henderson has all the tools to be a 3-down back. He's really good at pass blocking. He can catch out of the backfield, and he's kind of a nice – he has the explosiveness. I mean, he's not going to burn you over the top, but he has explosiveness to hit the hole, make his read, cut, and gain a few extra yards. So I think he could really be a good asset for Jim Harbaugh and that Los Angeles Chargers, with Justin Herbert at quarterback, Trayvon Henderson at running back, Mike Williams, Ladd McConkey. So they were able to go and get a running back that is needed and picked up a extra pick along the way. So I really like that trade. I don't know. Harbaugh is kind of more on the, aggressive side. He likes to trade up. Him and the GM like to trade up versus trade back. But they might say, hey, getting an extra 4th round pick may not hurt. So, all right, next up at number 86, Jalen Noel, wide receiver, Iowa State. Chargers did a really good job bringing back Mike Williams, guys. They brought back Mike Williams, but lost Josh Palmer in free agency. They will be looking to add some receiver depth and a receiver to pair with Ladd McConkey next season, because Mike Williams is getting old. So, and I think it was only a 1-year deal for Mike Williams anyway. And Jalen Noel is that guy. Everyone talks about Jaden Higgins, and for good reason. But, from Iowa State. But I feel that not many people know about Noel. But he is definitely worth talking about and worth taking here, at 86 overall. I mean, we're in the 3rd round. So that's a real good spot for him. And, he gets to learn behind Mike Williams, and then next season, Jalen Noel and Lab McConkey. And then maybe they go get a different wide receiver or tight end in next year's draft. So I really like this. I really like that pick, guys. Um, so first three picks: edge rusher, running back, wide receiver. The edge isn't as much of a need. The other two kind of are, but still happy with it. Now, at number 111, the 111th pick, the Chargers take Omar Norman Lott, defensive lineman, Tennessee. Coach Harbaugh wants to be physical on both sides of the line. Omar Norman Lott can come in and be a run stopper, and he may not get a lot of sacks, but what he can come in and do is just clog that lane, open up the hole for like the linebackers, the edge rushers, those more speedy guys to get to the quarterback. So, not every player is going to be a stat guy. So, sometimes you need those players that are just come in and they're a big role player in the offense or the defense. And Omar Norman Lott kind of seems like he's that guy. He can stop the run, but he's going to clog up the lanes and free up space for the linebackers to blitz quarterbacks. So I really like that pick. And, defensive line is a kind of a need for the Chargers. Not as strong as, tight end or running back or even wide receiver, but it's still a need nonetheless. And, in the middle rounds here, that's a really nice pickup. So, all right. Now, at number 125, the Chargers take Dorian Strong, cornerback, Virginia Tech. Chargers need some depth at corner. Losing Asante Samuel Jr., in free agency, he still hasn't re-signed, but he's still a free agent, so maybe the Chargers bring him back. But I'm told that Harbaugh just didn't really like the style of Asante Samuel and didn't like his attitudes in the locker room. So we'll have to see how that plays out. In this mock draft, they take Dorian Strong. He may not be the most well-known name, especially at corner, but he can step in and be productive. I see him more as of like a nickel corner, but regardless, corner is a need. And the Chargers kind of, they waited a little too long for the corner in this mock draft, but he can still come in and have great success. So, all right, now this next one is the last pick of the. Now it's not the last pick in this 7-round mock. The Chargers actually have 11 picks. The comp picks and then me trading and getting an extra pick. They ended up with 11 picks in this mock draft. But this is like kind of like the last one of like need, and then like the rest of them are going to be, just role players, depth, stuff like that. At number 158, the Los Angeles Chargers take Mitchell Evans, Notre Dame. Chargers need some help on offense with pass catchers. They addressed running back and receiver earlier. Now, time to get a tight end. Evans was a key player for Notre Dame offense this past season and can come in and help across the middle. Big tight end, big body. He's got great hands. And if I remember correctly, he is a very solid run blocker. So kind of checking all the boxes here, guys, in the need of tight end for the Chargers. And ultimately, Harbaugh probably wants Colston Loveland, or maybe he wants Mason Taylor. Neither one of those were available at earlier picks. Chargers go get their tight end, Mitchell Evans. All right, now, pick number 7, number 181. The Chargers take a linebacker, Jack Kaiser, Notre Dame. And I promise I didn't do this on purpose, guys. I didn't do this on purpose. It was not back-to-back Notre Dame players on purpose, but linebacker is kind of one of those they are pretty strong at, but they could always use a good depth, good role player. And Jack Kaiser, he can kind of come in, learn from people, and maybe he has impact, down in the future. But right now he would just kind of be like a good role player. keep guys fresh on defense. So, all right, their eighth pick, number 191 or 199, sorry, 199. Connor Colby, interior offensive lineman, Iowa. He can play guard, center. In Iowa's known for kind of having some big boys on the offensive line. They like to run the ball, and Caleb Johnson, running back Caleb Johnson, I'm sure he ran behind Connor Colby a lot this season. So this is just like keeping the offensive line fresh. On defense, I took Shamar Stewart in the first round, as to keep the guys fresh on the defensive line. Well, now on the offensive line, this is another pick that can kind of come in, keep those, because the line is good. You got Rashawn Slater at left tackle, you got Joe Alt at right tackle, you got Zion, at the left guard, and then you got Zion Johnson at left guard, and then you got Mekhi Becton, who they just picked up in free agency. So what this is just a help keep those big boys fresh on the offensive line. That way, they're come fourth quarter when Jim Harbaugh just wants to run the ball, chew the clock, and get out with a win, they can, because they have fresh bodies. All right, pick number 9 at 209 is a Johnny Cornelius, offensive tackle, Oregon. And once again, they have their 2 starting left tackles, or their 2 starting tackles. Now they go get another, role player coming off the bench, when people are getting tired. And what better way? All right. At the 10th pick for the Chargers, at number 214, Riley Mills, defensive tackle, Notre Dame. And I promise, once again, this is not because I'm a Notre Dame fan in college that I root for Notre Dame. This is how the draft fell to me, and Chargers end up with 3 Notre Dame players here in the later stages of the draft. So Riley Mills, he would honestly go a lot higher if it wasn't for his injury that he suffered late last season. I think he suffered it in the playoffs, and he missed the national championship game. And he would definitely be a second, third round pick, easy, possibly late first, depending on how it played out, but definitely a second or third round pick for sure. But that injury kind of, might detour some teams away. And, the Chargers don't, they already addressed one defensive lineman earlier. Now they go get another one. Just kind of keep those bodies fresh once again. And the last pick for them in this mock draft is at number 256, Tyler Cooper, interior offensive lineman from Minnesota. Once again, just a role player, guys. Not everybody is a starter in the league. Not everybody can come in and be an impact. Sometimes you just need a role player, a bench player to come off the bench and just give a little spark here or there, or just let your starters get a break, and that's okay. But that is the mock draft. Let me know, guys, what you think. I would love to hear your opinions on the mock draft, on the rule changes, on some of the headlines around, that in the First Coll segment. That is all the time I have for today. I hope you have enjoyed the show. Leave comments letting me know your opinions about the topics of discussion today. Don't forget to follow across social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Follow Answer the Coll on all those. Answer the Coll, COLL. Don't forget to like or subscribe to the channel. Never miss an episode. Never miss any news that is posted. Share it with your friends and your family. All right? If you got anybody that just loves football as much as I do, share it with them. And just one more thing before I go. If you want to talk ball, I will answer the call.